The Sicario perk deck. You might know it from that one video Beecroft released where he suggested it over Rogue, which is basically the highest praise a perk deck can receive. However, when compared to the general popularity of other dodge decks like Hacker and Rogue, Sicario is quite forgotten. Sicario is a dodge deck, and depending how you look at it, you could make an argument for it being the best dodge deck. See, Sicario's dodge increases every time you get shot. This means that you are eventually guaranteed to dodge, no matter how unlucky you are. Even with 99 dodge, a non-zero chance exists where you dodge literally 0 bullets in a game. With Sicario, this chance goes away. Sicario starts with an initial dodge of 15, and with the suit it becomes 20. Every time you get hit, your dodge increases by 20. There is a 4-second cooldown on this effect, so you can't just stand in front of a light for free stacks. After you do dodge, you go down to your original dodge value. Additionally, every time you dodge, your armor comes back. In a sense, Sicario is a dodge deck crossed with an armor gating deck. This leads to fun speculation. Let's say you have 60 dodge and want to cross a gap. You could run through, but you're more likely to dodge than not, meaning you'll be reset to 20 dodge, which is a pretty vulnerable state. However, you could also assume that you will be hit. This will clear your armor and set you to 80 dodge. With 80 dodge, you're almost guaranteed to dodge. And if you factor the armor on dodge, you have 3 free shots, 1 from your armor being shot down, 1 from dodging, and 1 from your armor coming back. If you have a dodge tracker, making plays on Sicario can be really engaging. Now, instead of risking this play, you have another option, your Smoke Bomb. The Smoke Bomb is a pretty cool throwable, in that it doubles your perk deck. Sicario has a base dodge of 15, in the Smoke this becomes 30. Sicario gains 20 dodge on hit, in Smoke this becomes 40. This way, sitting in Smoke with a suit gives 35 dodge and 75 on hit. The next hit brings you to 115, which is a guaranteed dodge. You don't need to think too much about this, but sitting in Sicario Smoke means you aren't going to die unless it's in front of an awful lot of bullets. The Smoke Bomb also has some lesser effects, like 10 dodge for your teammates, and less accuracy for enemies inside Smoke. Enemy accuracy is a thing in this game. It doesn't matter too much, but I'll go over it in a quick way. When you pop out in front of an enemy, they have a pretty low accuracy, but the longer you stand in front of them, the more accurate they'll become. Accuracy is simply if an enemy hits you or not. This is separate from dodge. An enemy can hit you, but you still dodge and take no damage. Enemies in Smoke will just have a higher chance to miss you. So, with a cooldown of 1 minute and only gaining back 1 pitiful second per kill, how do you make the most out of the Smoke Bomb? Sicario is often considered one of the hardest decks to play well, and it's because of this bomb. So, how do you use it? Like this? This? Maybe like this? Well, it's hard to say. Sicario takes quite a lot of map knowledge to know where to throw your smoke and where it will land. Another thing to note is that ping affects the smoke deployment time, so this will need to be taken into account when you throw the bomb. Remember that you only have 10 seconds of smoke, so throwing smoke in places you can't reach in time will be a waste. Hopefully you understand how the smoke bomb works and its abilities, so I can now start the actual uses this bomb has. The first and most straightforward use is obviously for interactions. Throw the smoke on some drill or whatever and fix it safely. This can be for a dead teammate as well, so Inspire isn't needed on Sicario. Not to say it's needed on anything really, basic utilization of brain functions will remove the need for Inspire in your builds altogether. If you have a distance you need to cross, throw a smoke partway through and run into it for a break before going to your destination. Something to keep track of for this is that you need to time your exits from smoke. You can't just leave whenever you want, lest you find yourself in the open with no armor and just 20 dodge. This is a pretty focus demanding task, at least I find it to be. Just watch when your armor is up. You don't need to time the dodge as well, as that's a bit too hard to keep track of. A really weird use would be to smoke enemies. On rare occasions, there are chokes which enemies often clump through. You can smoke that area if you know enemies are coming in, which will make them all basically miss. This only has applications for a small choke to a wide space, as using the smoke on yourself is infinitely safer and more predictable. However, covering a choke like this will help all your team rather than just yourself. There is another way to support teammates, though it's pretty situational. You can throw your smoke on them. Unless your teammate has a dodge set up, another 10 dodge isn't going to do much for them. but it might help them dodge a single bullet while they fix a drill. One interesting thing to note is that these stack, so if you have 4 Sicario players and just stack the smokes, you can set it a passive 65 dodge, get hit once, and you go to 105 dodge, and instantly regain your armor. With smoke stacked like this, you're immortal. Well, not really, you can still die, but this is also a really poor use of your team's literal entire stock of smoke grenades. You could also just toss smoke whenever you feel in danger to protect yourself, but this isn't really something I do often. Well, those are the ways to use the smoke bomb on Sicario, as well as how the perk works in general. Are you ready to master the deck now? No. Sicario takes a lot of practice. Just knowing how it works does not guarantee your survival. Okay, look, I had to. This is Sicario as Overkill intended. Revolvers are a fairly forgotten weapon class, to be honest, and it's because they're really strong. Now, notice I said strong and not good. Those don't necessarily mean the same thing. Revolvers have super high damage stats and pretty below average stats elsewhere. They also take a fair bit of aim, which means this isn't the highest KPM build in the game unless you're some kind of aimbot. These revolvers will kill basically everything, so long as you aren't missing much, you'll be fine on ammo. Now, you'll notice akimbo weapons don't really have aim down sights, which will make snipers difficult. I fixed that by adding another revolver, the Bronco, outfitted for maximum coolness. If a sniper scope on a revolver doesn't appeal to you, I don't know what will. This really makes the Bronco the pocket sniper it was meant to be, and if you need more affirmation, check out the Big Magnum mod. The Bronco can also help you rebuild ammo in case you whiffed every shot on the Akimbo Castigos, provided you don't whiff every Bronco shot as well. I don't have too much more to say about this build, so let me spotlight a couple helpful Sicario mods. This mod to reduce the visual effect of smoke by Jerry is really helpful if you want to, like, I don't know, actually aim and hit things when you're in the smoke. I don't really use this, as I just eyeball where enemies are from the Poco health bars, but this is a nice option. Another useful mod is Dr. Newbie's Unambiguous Smoke Range, which shows you where exactly the effect exists. You aren't really going to be playing around the edges of smoke, but this is nice to know. Now, the opposite of a useful mod would be the Big Smoke mod made by Rocky. Get it if you dare. Unlike my Hacker ICTV build, Sicario ICTV actually has some merit when it comes to dodge. Remember that every time you get hit, your dodge increases, and since ICTV has negative 40 dodge, it gradually increases over time until you can get a high enough dodge. With Frenzy, the ICTV takes 2 shots each time, but your health is vulnerable. If you want to do ICTV Sicario, I'd really recommend First Aid Kits with Quick Fix Aced instead, as you get the breakpoint for 2-shot armor while also not being 1 health shot from death. However, I went with Frenzy here, as I wanted Berserker. Berserker on the M1014 is pretty cool, as you can one-shot heavies. As for Zerking, you can just get shot by a light SWAT. You could also just die if you don't want to deal with Zerking. Or, even better, do both. Now, you'll notice the M1014 isn't really great with snipers, due to a certain fun mechanic. Remember the Bronco from the last build? Well, here's his shotgun cousin. If you try to tell me that this isn't the peak of weapon modifications, I will block you from my comment section indefinitely. The Judge murders snipers at a distance, and really anything else as well. You could swap out the M1014 for whatever, and just play with the Zerk Judge. I mean, this thing slaps. It's also your backup dozer killer, in case the melee doesn't do the job. Speaking of, the El Verdugo is pretty cool. I could have gone for a katana here. I mean, it has better stats to the El Verdugo in every way. Which is a nice reminder. If you think the perk deck, skills, and weapon balancing in this game is shit, look at the poor melee section. Most of these melee are just pointless other than their looks, and even those which could be kinda fun just feel super clunky. Anyway, that was a tangent. I chose the Verdugo here just because it's Sangres' melee. I had revolvers in the last, I figured I'd have this here. I need to go over with smoke and the ICTV real quick. Okay, so you'll survive more than being without the smoke, but remember that your health is really fragile. If this was First Aid Kit ICTV Sicario, you could do anything really, but with Frenzy, you can't really play smokes aggressively. Building up that dodge to reliable numbers, even in smoke, is not nearly fast enough to keep you safe. Play this build pretty defensively overall, with a smoke to support yourself. If you have a dodge tracker, ICTV Sicario can be really strong. Remember the example I gave in the beginning with how you should consider making plays in the open based on dodge? Well, with the ICTV, it's interesting as well. Let's assume a scenario where you've built up 40 dodge. You aren't really likely to dodge the first shot that hits you, so you can assume you have 60 dodge and 1 shot left. From there, if you dodge, you get your 2-shot back. If not, then you're very likely to dodge the next shot, and then rebuild 2 shots. With just 40 dodge, you'll end up surviving 4 to 5 shots consistently. The only sucky part about ICTV Sicario is that when you do dodge, your dodge value is thrown back to the pits of Tartarus, where it needs to crawl back while you're left to live on just armor mechanics. It's no doubt that the hardest part of Sicario is making proper use of the smoke bomb, and hell, I don't even use the smokes perfectly. However, there's an alternative. Just don't use the smoke bombs. I was told a long time ago that if I were to use smoke bombs better, I would probably be one of the best Sicario players, since I have a tendency to survive so much without them. From my perspective, it's a suffering from success situation. Given that I survive 95% of interactions without ever needing my smokes, I have a tendency to forget to use them. Probably 30 or 40% of the games I go through, I use my smoke once, or not at all even. So why not just ditch the smoke? Concussion grenades are kind of like the opposite of smoke bombs. Where the smoke bomb has a long duration, small radius, and focuses on protecting those inside it, the concussion grenades have a short duration, huge radius, and focus on fucking up those around you. Now, an extremely powerful setup would be to have both of these together. No, sadly I can't do that. Unless you do epic modding, there's no way to get 2 deployables. For using these concussion grenades, just play them normally. Flash wide open spaces, flash covering objectives, flash for protection. If you can survive well off of just what Sicario gives you, then concussions would be a solid alternative to smoke bombs. There's no reason why this build in particular has no smoke bombs. It's applicable to basically any Sicario build, so let's go over the weapons instead. The Jocelyn is a shotgun in this game. Now you might be wondering why I chose it over the more popular Mosconi, so let's do a little comparison of the two. First up is Concealment, which goes to the Mosconi. It conceals better than the Jossie by a lot, so I did sacrifice that in this build. Second is the Ammo Pickup, which the Mosconi is also slightly better on. Third, the Reload, which the Mosconi wins again. Fourth, the Recoil, by which I mean it's slightly more controllable than the Mosconi. Fifth, the Ammo Count, which is higher on the Mosconi. Sixth, you know what, I'll stop here. Overkill? Why does the Jocelyn even exist? There's literally no reason to use this over the Mosconi. Like, I can't find any reason at all. I'm only using it here for the sake of variety and because it's an interesting bit for this video, but like, really? This weapon is so painfully outclassed. Whatever, slap on Dragon's Breath rounds, which we use for activating Overkill Ace, and this gun does its job. The Spec Ops is a really nice SMG that can be molded to fit your needs in any build. This thing is an underutilized beast. 60 damage SMGs with Overkill Ace tend to shred enemies, so this build will have no issues dealing damage. Now is your chance to become a real Western cowboy, what with your bow and fully automatic high-power SMG. Okay, well, look, this build gives me a chance to talk about some interesting mechanics around Sicario and the game in general, so this build is really just for information. Bows are not used often because, frankly, they suck. They have long charge times, projectile arcs you need to get used to, and you have to pick up your arrows after shooting them. Generally, they aren't weapons to use, as with death sentence spawn rates, it's absurd to keep up with kills just to keep your head above the water. You would either need to fully charge body shots or headshots, and this isn't the Huntsman which automatically aim locks to enemy heads, okay? This thing actually needs to be aimed. However, bows are considered automatic weapons, which means you can actually use them with body expertise. Not many people know about this, but it's a pretty cool thing to know. This allows much freer aiming and lower charge times, which means you can actually keep up with kills. On some maps. Don't go to No Mercy and then complain that your bow isn't clearing hallways of enemies, because it won't. Now you could skip this step and just get poison arrows, which automatically pierce armor, and apply enough poison to kill heavy swats, but that's kinda boring. Another note is that the bow is extremely concealable, which allows me to take Sneaky Bastard. Is Sneaky Bastard useful for Sicario? Well, no, but also yes. Sicario has a constantly fluctuating dodge value, and you rely on that dodge to regain your armor, not actually to dodge. Sneaky Bastard helps you to dodge, but really on Sicario the effects are minimal to none. In fact, it can occasionally mess with you, as you can dodge when you'd want to build higher for a push. You'd really be better off putting these points elsewhere, but you'd also be better off not using a bow when facing the entirety of the United States Police Force. Let's talk about dozers. More specifically, their faceplates. Dozers have pretty high health. I don't think you need me to tell you that. However, they also have really high multipliers when you shoot their face. Before you can do that, you need to get rid of the faceplates, which have pseudo-armor gating in a way. The faceplates have a combined 310 health, the first of which has 150 health, and the second has 160. In theory, it takes only slightly more than 300 damage to open up a dozer. In reality, it's a bit tougher than that. You have to deal damage to these plates separately, and they also absorb excess damage. If you were to shoot a dozer with 200 damage, or 10,000, only the first plate will fall off, and you need to do it again. Since the bow does a lot of damage in one shot, but shoots fairly slowly, it's one of the worst choices in this game against unexposed dozers. SMGs, however, are one of the best choices. The CR-805B is an SMG, though it doesn't really look like one. Mainly use this for dozers, big swarms of enemies, and most importantly, snipers. I don't recommend trying to hit snipers with a bow unless you're the payday equivalent of Lars Anderson.
I've been kidnapped by Carrot, but not really against my will, and because of it, I have a cool build with the funny smoke bomb for you. And believe it or not, unlike most builds, it utilizes weapons to kill enemies. Now that you're aware of it, let's go over them. You have to learn about one thing right off the bat. The Parabellums are amazing against dozers. How amazing? So amazing that there's a chance your wife takes the kids and leaves, your boss fires you, and the RTX GPUs are out of stock permanently. If you don't believe me, then here's a proof. As you just saw, I was 100% serious, so use them at own risk. Of course, you can use them against normal units too, but their main purpose here is taking care of dozers and other specials. Important note though, aiming with them can be difficult if the distance is big, and the ammo can be a problem if you blindly spam the trigger. As for the secondary, well, your wife won't leave you because of it, but it's a good tool to deal with other units on the map. You don't have to worry about your aim and ammo management too much, which means you can spam it more. One thing you can change in the attachments is going for the concealment boost and the sight instead of the stability boost, but that's up to you. That's all. Figure the skills out by yourself. Or just wait 5 seconds. That's basically everything. As the last thing, I will show you a bit of gameplay I collected during one heist with this setup.
Drop it! Bulldozer! Put your fucking hands up! They've got a medic! Kill the medic! Hand in the air! They've got a medic, fellas! Got the fucking medic! Shield! That's a big ass shield! That's an absolute medic back! Yeah! That's a motherfucking bulldozer! Bulldozer! Bulldozer!
That was Yokai, and odds are that you know him. He's probably the single best Sicario player out there, and I'd like to see if there is anyone out there better than him. I just knew that I had to kidnap him for this video. That aside, he also does unique variety-based builds similar to me, so if you're into that chaos, check his channel out. Well, there's your 5 Sicario builds, some certainly more practical than others. Sicario is a tough deck to use, and these certainly aren't starter builds. However, put some practice into it, and this deck is really fun. In conclusion, el mazo de ventajas de Sicario en el día de pago 2 requiere mucha práctica para lograr el dominio. Como todo el mundo sabe, vino con sangre, por eso estoy haciendo esta estúpida broma. Probablemente dije la mayoría de estas cosas mal y ofendido como todos. Lo siento mucho.